Alright, howdy folks, my name is Dalton Rutlinger. Hope you guys are having a good one. Welcome back to the channel. So this video is going to be just a review of the Firefish Lagoon. As you can see, we're leaving Cena. We're heading off north to link up with latitude 33 so we can get back to the Dragon Cliffs without much of an issue. And for this video, I'm just going to kind of go over my thoughts and opinions of the update. So this will probably be a pretty short video, all things considered. Alright, so let me get my notes. Firefish Lagoon is split up into 4 different towns. The Firefish Town, Kika Bay, Onna, and Cena. It's kind of weird that Kika Bay is the capital of the region whenever it's named after... Whenever there's like literally a town that's named after the actual region, Firefish Town in Firefish Lagoon. But that's not a complaint or anything like that. That's just me kind of throwing out. It's kind of strange. So Firefish Town and Kika Bay are both importer towns, or what I call importer towns. They both import. They don't really export anything. They're okay for taking missions from, but they're not really a good place to take trade missions from. Let me make sure I'm still heading on the right path. Yeah, roughly heading north, that's fine. The main thing that I really liked about this update was the terrain itself. As you can see, it's a lot more unique compared to pretty much all of the other archipelagos in the game, like All-Ankh, Dragon Cliffs, or the Emerald Archipelago, and Astron. There's a lot more mountainous terrain to it. There's a lot of sandbanks. There's a lot of beaches, and there's a lot of shallow areas, which I'll get into that a little bit later on. But for the most part, you really got to pay attention to where you're going with this update. And the weather effects are just mwah, chef's kiss. The Raw Lion really knocked it out of the park with this update, with the weather effects and whatnot. So the pros for this update are going to be the weather effects, because finding your way around at night is just it's basically next to impossible. It gets real foggy. It gets real difficult to see where you're going, even at the best of times. And if a storm comes in, just forget it. You're going to be forced to drop anchor, which is a very good talking point as far as my opinion goes. You don't really... Before this update, I could probably count the amount of times that I dropped anchor on one hand than before playing this update. Like, I tried sailing around at night a couple of times just to see what would happen. I tried sleeping while trying to navigate this large bay here, and many times I grounded the boat, or I ran into a shallow area, or I just ran into one of the mountains. You really have to pay attention to what you're doing with this update. And I really approve of it because of that. The terrain in the map update is just... Whenever you're first coming in, there's no real easy way of knowing where you're going. And it's probably going to take a while for you to actually pick up on the terrain itself to figure out where you're going. You've really got to put your map navigation skills to the test with this. Thankfully, it's not too difficult to figure out where you are. All you really got to do is you just got to kind of look at the land and figure out, okay, so if I'm coming from Firefish Town trying to get to Onna, I've got this long stretch of island to the west, and there's this little finger of beach that goes further up to the northeast. I had to use that several times to figure out where the heck I was, because I either got stuck or I woke up at night and my boat had drifted. So figuring out where you are using your compass and your map and just using the geography of the area is kind of a much needed skill with this update. Just gonna make sure I'm still on the right track, and yes I am for the most part. Um, and for the most part, there's not really any rough seas in this region either. There's for the most part, it's going to be smooth sailing. In my experience, I didn't really encounter any rough seas, especially in the larger bay area. Whenever you get outside of the actual ring itself, you'll encounter some rougher seas because you're in the open ocean at that point. But so long as you stay on the inside of this bay area, in my experience, I didn't really have any issues with rough seas or anything like that. The biggest con that I want to talk about is the shallow areas, the unmarked shallow areas, which, in my opinion, this is something that really needs to be fixed. So, to the east of Kika Bay, between those two sandbanks, you got those two smaller islands to the south, and you got these sandbanks just north of them. Okay, that area is extremely shallow. If you are going to this region in a brig or a sandbuck, maybe even the junk, do not go there. I bottomed out plenty of times in just the Cacum, and it was a nightmare trying to sail through that region. Like, I did it okay for the first time. It went pretty smooth, all things considered. But that area just needs to be marked off. Like, don't even bother trying to go there. It's it's way too shallow. I don't know if that's intentional or if it's just something Raw Lion kind of skipped over whenever he was making the game. But yeah, it's an area that just needs to be marked off. Now, during certain times of the day, you can navigate through that without much of a problem, but I don't know if this is intentional or if it's just coincidence that it worked out this way. But at nighttime, in my experience, just stay away from that region. Though at high noon, funnily enough, I think it's safe enough to cross. Then also north of Kika Bay, you've got this bit of land that kind of jots out just like straight north. I believe I've also gotten stuck on that a couple times, and the water recedes a lot further away from that point than you would actually think. Um, so yeah, if I was Raw Lion, if I was giving like any kind of advice to this, I would highly recommend that he goes through and puts a bunch of markers in these shallow areas, because believe me, it is a royal pain in the butt trying to get out of these areas. Um, Another big con that I found with this area, it's not really a big thing. It's not like game breaking or anything. The shallow areas was pretty much my main complaint with this update. There's not really any navigation tools, and this is kind of a problem for me currently because I tested out recovering the boat when I didn't have anything on me, and you do actually go back to Kika Bay. You don't have to worry. You don't go back to the Dragon Cliffs. You don't go back to All or anything like that. You go back to Kika Bay. Kika Bay is classified as an actual capital city of the region. But there's not like any navigation tools. If you come here looking for unique looking compass, unique looking sundial, unique looking quadrants, so on and so on and so on, you're not going to find it. Unless I overlooked them, which might be possible. This is me we're talking about. There's not really there's no navigation tools in this region. So right now I'm having to rely on a sun compass to get me back to the Dragon Cliffs because my actual compass was lost whenever I recovered the boat. And if you're new to the game, beware of this. It hadn't happened to me up until this point, so I think it's kind of a rare bug, but if Raw Lion watches this, please, please, please fix this. This is kind of a big thing. I can imagine it pisses off more than just a handful of new players whenever they have to recover the boat and they lose their stuff. But yeah, if you have your stuff in your inventory and you recover the boat, there is a chance that it will be lost. As you can see, I lost my compass, I lost my telescope. And maybe I lost something else. I don't think I did, though. I think I just had the sun compass and the quadrant. Um, but yeah, that is a very big thing that needs to be fixed. Um, the last point I'm going to make for this update is this area has kind of an underwhelming economy. And I can understand why. This area is not very big. It only takes like maybe a day or two to actually sail from one end of the island to the other, or one end of the archipelago to the other. But the rewards you get here are not really anything to write home about. They're not really all that great. Um, I think the highest mission point that I saw was just like a couple hundred of emerald dragons, which is basically nothing in terms of economy. But they do export plenty of new stuff. You get oranges, you've got rabbit furs, you've got rice, which is what I'm currently taking back to the Dragon Cliffs with me now. I thought about taking more, but I just don't really have the room. These boxes take up a lot of room. And unfortunately, I couldn't really afford to take another one. I had to restock on my food supplies and water supplies and whatnot. And this map was also pretty expensive too. But that is pretty much all I've really got for this update. It's overall, I would rank it a solid 8 out of 10. It's the main thing that I didn't like about it was just the shallow regions. Like, you could be sailing along perfectly fine, and there'd be no warning that there's like a shallow sandbank coming up that's just gonna halt your progress. Now, I got lucky a couple of times where the water would actually rise up high enough that my boat would continue sailing on, and it would just eventually kind of fix itself and get back into deeper waters. But other times, it was almost like rage quitting area, because I had to get out of my boat, like unload all my cargo, and then just repeatedly just throw any kind of barrel or box I had at the boat to try and get it unstuck. This is before that I knew that recovering the boat would actually go back to Kika Bay, not the Dragon Cliffs. So, if you get stuck in one of those shallow sandbanks and you're going to Kika Bay anyway, just like drop all your stuff that you have inside your inventory and just recover the boat, because you'll go straight to Kika Bay. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. I rank the update like a solid 8, maybe 9 out of 10. I don't really have that many complaints about it, but I would like to see those shallow areas marked. That way we don't have to worry about that kind of area again. And I think maybe some flavor could be added to the update as well. Like in those shallow areas, I talked about this with a guy on Discord. You could totally put in like a shipwreck or something in those shallow areas to mark, like, hey, this is a dangerous area. Be careful when you're sailing through this particular area. Just something to add a bit more life to the world, I would say. Like, that is kind of my biggest complaint with this game thus far, aside from the wind constantly blowing in a direction that you don't need it to be blowing in. It's just the lack of life in this game for the most part. But yeah, that's all I've got for now. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I do hope you guys did enjoy the update. The past several videos, unless this video goes up before the last two that I'm uploading, you guys should have seen a pretty good chunk of what the update had to offer, including the sandbanks. That was not a fun time. But I will see you guys in the next video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment, and if you want to see more Sailwind, please consider subscribing, because I will have plenty more on the way. And right now, I'm going to be fighting my way back to the Dragon Cliffs, tooth and nail, hoping that I don't capsize. This is kind of the big problem I have with this particular boat, is it does not handle open ocean crossings very easily. One thing else I want to talk about now that I kind of thought about it is um, this region is supposed to get 2 new boats, but they're not in the game yet. I think it's 2. It might just be 1. But what I think is happening is at Kika Bay, you can see that there's an actual boat under construction. I don't know if that's going to be just something that's part of the game, or if that's like a teaser to the actual next boat that's supposed to be brought into the game at a later date. If it is the next boat, that boat is going to be absolutely massive. In fact, I think only the brig will be bigger than it. So we'll definitely be coming back whenever the next update comes, or if it becomes, if we get any missions that bring us back here that pay really, really well. But until then, I think we're going to be waiting until we get the junk to cross the open ocean again. Because this thing, I don't like doing it in this thing. But, yeah, I'll be seeing you guys in the next update or in the next video. So until then, God bless, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.